What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Vinny's Corner. I'm your host, Vinny. This is my co-host. Tonight we got the Cardinal Cove. You know my guy Cove, as usual. Welcome back, everybody, and thanks for tapping in with us. So tonight, I'll give you a quick run. I mean, I wouldn't really call it a rundown, but there is a nice little fight going on this weekend. So if you want to check that out, I'll give you some info on it for Saturday. In addition to that, obviously, we've got the NHL and NBA finals starting to shape up. Maybe hold on. NHL could be a little different because it looks like Carolina is hanging in there tough in Game 5 tonight, so we'll see. And then, of course, we've got Cove's questions, which will take us through most of the sports, but in particular, baseball for sure. So I'm getting this shared on the socials. This weekend, as I was saying, so I was actually talking to one of the guys that follows me. I'm a mutual with named Edwin. And he was saying that he was trying to get back into boxing, but he was having a hard time. It's just not the same thing as like when we were growing up. And I was telling him, if you want somebody who's really going to maybe get you back into the sport, if you want to watch an exciting fighter, a real throwback fighter, I guess you could call it, there's a guy named Caleb Plant, real tough dude. He's been a champ before, obviously. He's fought guys like Canelo Alvarez in the past. He fights at super middleweight. He's making his return this weekend on a fight card against Armando Resendez. And that card is actually on Amazon Prime Video for free on Saturday. So if you have Prime Video, if you're looking for some stuff to tune into, I would definitely check that out. There's also the return on that same card is the return of undefeated champion Jamal Charlo. So that's kind of a big one too. He's fighting Tommy Lamana. So I expect both fights are going to be good. Both of these guys are high action, high impact fighters. And there was a little bit of a bad blood between Caleb Plant and Jamal Charlo last year. They got into it backstage at 2 years ago now, at the Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford fight. And Caleb Plant actually smacked Charlo in the face. So they're kind of hoping that, this is going to be a return fight for both of them on the same card. And then ultimately they're going to look to maybe have a fight against each other here in the near future. And that would be an awesome fight. So again, Jamal Charlo, undefeated. He's a stud. He's been a champ in middleweight. And then at super middleweight, Caleb Plant, a real throwback fighter. When you watch this guy in the ring, it's nothing but really technical, really hard-hitting fight, right? He knocks people down bad. He fought a guy named Trevor McCumbee last year. It was looking like a good fight for Trevor, and then Caleb just unleashed on him, took him out. He got him out of there. But he's one of the guys I love to watch fight. He's a really cool dude, too. I've had the opportunity to meet him in the past. He's a real down-to-earth guy. He's like from the ground up, gritty, grew up poor, built himself up, and now he's like a championship-level star boxer. So definitely a fight that I would tune into this weekend, guys, if you are looking for something different. If you want a boxing card that might get you back into the sport of boxing, this could be the card to do it, and it's free. So no reason to not tune in. And there is also a UFC fight night going on this weekend, so definitely check that out. I'm not going to jump too far into that, but it's a decent card. You know what? Let me see what it's headlined. It's a woman's fight that's headlining it. I know that much, and I should know more, but it's Blanchfield versus Barber. There are some good fighters on the card overall, though. It's definitely Macy Barber is tough. I like her. So it could be, I expect that'll be a decent card too. Definitely check that out as well. But again, if you're looking for some combat sports this weekend, the free card on Saturday, no better way to go. Amazon Prime Video, if you have it already, you can see two guys in Jamal Charlo and Caleb Plant. I'm getting the hiccups, both doing their thing. So what's going on, Cove? Everything's good, my bro?
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me. So, as you guys know, I'm a New York Knicks fan. I've got my Golden Knights shirt on. Golden Knights got smoked out by the Oilers in the last series. That wasn't too good. But with that being said, My Knicks had a really tough time last night, to say the very least. They've had a really tough time this series. They just look like they're overmatched by the Clippers. We'll jump into that a little bit later in the show. I know we had a lot of stuff specific, or not a lot, but a few questions that we wanted to jump right into for baseball. I think the season's been pretty good so far. So just as an update for folks that have been watching baseball, if you didn't see the scores today, a couple of big games that I wanted to highlight. The White Sox beat the Mets today, 9-4. And the Guardians took out the Dodgers today, 7-4. So those were a couple of good ones. We still got the Yankees to play tonight. The Tigers continue their roll. They're 37-20 now, the clear number one in baseball. But seasons look pretty solid so far, I think, across the board. There's a lot of teams that got 30-plus wins now. Another 30-plus win team actually dropped the ball today. The Marlins beat the Padres 10-8, so that was a pretty good one. But we like to always jump in and talk our baseball, and I know that Cove's got some good baseball questions here for us, so why don't we jump right into that? Cove?
Yeah. So, is Shohei on pace for a historic home run season? Because as of right now, Shohei leads the majors with 20 home runs, sparking early hopes for a potential 60 home run season.
I don't know. I mean, so, he plays DH right now, right? I don't know. Here's what I'll say, right? He looks like he's just about on pace for it. He's a little, for a 60, technically he's actually a little behind, right? There's been more than 50 games, right? So he might be like right there, right? But we're expecting him to come back pitching this summer, right? Now, I don't know how that affects pitching and batting, but I feel like, right, to play it safe, he might be taking a little off on the bat, right? Putting balls in play, but not necessarily swinging for the fences. Now, you tell me. I know you've played baseball before, Cove. What do you think?
You're not far off that. If you look at historical paces by anybody, Sosa, McGuire, Bonds, those guys who have had 60 plus home runs.
Aaron Judge.
60. Yes. Well, I'm saying 60 plus, because they did it, some of those guys did it more than once. Anyway, but statistically, where, like what you said, is where they are at, he might be on pace, but he's just at par too, because it's just like right now, it seems like a lot, but he could slow down.
Well, right. And so, now I could be wrong about this, but I feel like when guys like Bonds, like Sosa, when these guys were doing it, and granted, we know those guys were juicing, whatever else, but they might be at 25 home runs at this point, right? Yeah. So 20 is on pace for the number of games we have, right? If you look, they've played high 50s games, right? About a third of the season. So when you're looking at it as a third of the season, he's exactly on pace to hit 60 home runs. The reality is, though, a lot of guys, and I'm not sure if that's Shohei or not, because, he's what they like to call a generational talent, right? A lot of guys tend to slow down on that pace, specifically after the All-Star break, right? Now, I don't know that we're going to see him in the home run derby or not. I would imagine not, just because by that point he'll probably be gearing up to pitch as well. But I don't know.
Now I'll use this for example. They didn't put an article until August before they start talking about him being on pace for 60. So, and I know it's not saying you love this, but you notice this. They love to hype up Shohei way up here. No matter what he's doing, he might be having 20 home runs, but they think he's going to hit 60, 70, 80. They'll put what was it? By July, they'll put him on a Shohei watch. Every game will have Shohei's going to hit 60. Shohei's going to hit 60. And they'll just milk that all season just for attention.
You're right. 100%. And I get it. He is the non-American face of the league. In baseball, he might be the face of baseball realistically. I'd like to think
the guy could have 25 by July, and they'll still talk about 60 just because it'll get him attention.
Yeah, no, and I think you're completely right about that. I'm not even okay. So right now he's the favorite to win the NL MVP, right? But he's only so as a betting favorite, he's minus 130, which is not that. So Judge, for example, is minus 2,500 to win the AL MVP. Okay, so I don't know. And as I was just telling you when we were off air, right? I was actually just reading an article. It was an interesting one, but the ESPN writers were picking Peter Crow Armstrong from the Chicago. I almost said the Cleveland Cubs, the Chicago Cubs, as a possible favorite to win the NL MVP. So, and to me, that sounds a little crazy, but the guy's got 16 stolen bases already. He's got 49 RBIs, but his batting average is around 275 right now, 274. I think if it's not going to be Shohei, it's going to be Tatis. But
yeah,
we'll see what happens, of course. But just to answer your question, I think he's going to fall short. I think that he might break 50. But I think he might finish the season with 52 to 55, which is still studly. But I don't necessarily think that he is going to be a 60-plus club this year.
Yes. Now, the only thing I find weird, and I'm just looking at certain things, right? But does this sound weird to you? Because I feel like Judge is older than that. But it says 1992, Aaron Judge is born.
Aaron Judge is young, bro.
Is he really 23? I thought he was a lot older than that.
No. 92. He's 33.
Oh, yeah. Wait, my brain, my ads.
Yeah, so he's not okay. Listen, he's definitely on the latter half of his career, I think, right? He's already 33, so,
Okay, yeah. That's what I was like 92. I was like, wait, 2002 would make him 23 because I'm like, wait, 92, that makes sense, yes. Didn't do the math on it.
Dude, I just realized I had the wrong ticker up. I'm switching that right now. I was promoting somebody else's show on the bottom of our show. That was crazy. But so now I know the next question jumps to Aaron Judge, right? And so I'll let you open it up with the question. Obviously, there's a lot of things to talk about with Aaron Judge. So
yes. So can Aaron Judge maintain his impressive batting average? Judge is currently leading the American League with a .395 batting average and an OPS of 1.234.
Wild, right? Wild. Over a 1. Wild. Yeah. I love it.
I just laugh how it ends right mathematically at 1.234.
So I would be surprised. I would love to see it happen. I would love to see him finish the season with a 400. Realistically, I feel like, Judge is going to have 100 plus ribbies. I think he's going to finish the season with a 360 batting average, which is still massive. 50 plus home runs. But 395 to 400, that's legendary, and you know what? I mean, he's on pace for another legendary season. It'll be 4 in a row that he's just been out of his mind in the regular season. And so I want to follow up your question. And now I'm curious to what you think about this, right? Does he okay, so he's on pace to be one of the greatest hitters of all time, right? He puts up the numbers. He's getting the accolades. He's probably going to be the AL MVP again this season. Does he need to win a World Series to solidify his legacy in Major League Baseball?
Yes.
I agree.
Because, and I'm not saying I'll give you two answers. I'm like, yes, because you have a group of people who thinks rings matter, and then you have a group that's all about his statisticals, all his stats, the 62 home runs, and being maybe hitting 400 this year, and what he's done statistically as a batter could put him in there too. But here's the thing: I think he'll be automatic Hall of Fame hitter, Hall thing. But without that ring, he's not a first ballot. I find if you get the ring, you automatically become a no doubt first ballot, first time going in there, going in there. The ring helps you solidify it faster, but it doesn't stop you from getting in the Hall of Fame.
No, I mean, with his MVPs and his historic seasons that he's had already, I think he'll be a lock for the Hall of Fame. But, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying he's depending on who he goes up against at a certain time. If they got rings and he doesn't, they'll get the first ballot in, and then he might get the second round of going in. He's not going to get a unanimous without a ring.
I would be shocked if he wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer. I'll be honest. But
it just depends on who he's against. It just really depends on who he's up against, right?
Yeah, it depends on who the class is, of course. Now, for me, I think like it's kind of a big deal. Like, I'm a Yankees fan, right? Every Yankee, right? Donnie Baseball, Don Mattingly doesn't have a World Series, but that's a Hall of Fame baseball player, no doubt, right?
Yeah. But
so Aaron Judge is the next captain for the Yankees after Derek Jeter. That's a big responsibility. It's a big thing, right? I would be tremendously disappointed as a Yankees fan, as a fan of baseball, to not see this guy have a breakout playoff and win the World Series. That much is for sure. But what he does in the regular, it's almost like I don't want to see him become a Dan Marino conversation 25 years from now, right? Where generations are talking like, where does he stand? Well, people who watched him are like, oh, he's top, whatever, and then the younger generations, like, the guy didn't even win a World Series. Like, come on, And so I think it is really important for his legacy that he wins a World Series.
Well, I'll give you a name, for example. If it came down to him and this guy, how would you rate it? If one guy had to get in, Buster Posey.
Well, okay, that's a really, really good one. That's okay. Now
do you see what I mean? See how you hesitated for a second? I know you want to get Judge in there, but you throw Buster Posey, who won 3 World Series and fucking All-Stars and never really an MVP, but also that's where I'm talking about the hesitation of it's who he's against for first round Hall of Fame.
Well, so they're very different players, right?
Yeah.
First, they're very different players. But like Buster Posey is like, bro, that's like an all-time level catcher. You know what I mean? Defensively, awesome.
Yeah.
3 World Series, right? He's got over 700 RBIs. His career batting average is over 300. I hope it doesn't come down to him and Buster Posey. Yeah. I'd be like, that's like, but I'm going to say this. If Aaron Judge wins 1 World Series, Aaron Judge will get in first.
Yeah. Now here's a trivia question, because I know you won't pull it up. Do you know what Buster Posey's real name is?
No, I don't. But it's in my mind, it's Buster.
Yeah. Gerald Dempsey Posey III.
Yeah, I definitely did not. That's a great. I'm going to use that as a trivia question on my page tomorrow. That's a good one. I like that a lot. But no, I definitely didn't know that.
Gerald? You're like, what?
Well, that's probably why he goes by Buster.
Yeah.
You know, he's not. He didn't want to be a Jerry.
Yeah.
I think he would have been a good Jerry though.
That's
But
like when we talk about Doc Holliday, right? His name is like Leroy Henry.
listen, guys with the coolest nicknames
Yeah.
always have the strangest first names. No
Yeah.
question about it. So, all
So,
right. So, what's the next question on the deck?
just give me 2 seconds. Got to pop that. I was going back to the Panthers game for a second there. So
Panthers are up
now,
2-0.
yeah.
Just to put it out there.
Now we kind of switch it, but we don't really switch it because we're still in the AL. Is Cal Riley emerging as a top power hitter in the AL? Because Cal Riley recently hit his 18th and 19th home run, surpassing Judge to lead the AL in home runs.
That's a good question. So he's played. Okay, first of all, Cal Riley's he's a good catcher. For those that don't know, he plays for the Seattle Mariners, who's one of the best baseball teams in baseball. You know, the guy is good, no question about that. Here's what's interesting.
The guy's good, but did you suspect to hear Cal Riley leading the AL in home runs? Like,
the most home runs he's ever hit in a season is 34. That was last season. But to his credit, every one of his first 5 seasons or his first 4 seasons, this is his 5th, he's gone up in home, you know, so it was 2 home runs, 27 home runs, 30 home runs, 34 home runs. Now, a third of the way through the season, he's already at 19. So this is going to be a guy to watch out for years to come, 100%. I don't want to say that it surprises me. I mean, it surprises me when anyone besides Aaron Judge is leading in home runs. I'm just going to be honest. That's where my mind goes at this point.
Well, what I mean is, are you surprised that of all players in the AL, Cal Riley is out home running Aaron Judge at the moment? That's what I mean.
I mean, it's tough to say. I don't know that I'm surprised. I mean, like I said, I'm surprised if Aaron Judge is not the leader. I'm surprised, right? The top 5 people in, 3 of the top 5 come out of the NL, right? So you got Shohei, you got Kyle Schwarber, you got Corbin Carroll out of Arizona. Arizona's stinking it up this year too. But with the kind of season Seattle's having as a team, it's exciting. It's exciting to see a guy like Cal doing this well. It is, I would like to say, I mean, it will surprise me if he breaks through the 40 mark. Like, that's where I think that, like, here's the difference. I think that this guy is prime to get to 40 home runs this season. Based on what his numbers have looked like over the first 4 years, I wouldn't be surprised to see him break through 40. To see him finish the season with more home runs than Aaron Judge would blow my mind.
Yes. But I'll give you one name. I'll give you 2 names, like Alex Bregman or Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Like, those are kind of names who you expect to be going toe to toe with him. Like, that's what I mean by that. It's great that Cal Riley's doing what he's doing. It's just there's other guys that you would think you would hear be closer to him than Cal Riley.
Yeah, he's definitely, like, he's a little out of left field. I won't argue that. Like, you know where my mind goes right now when I think about it. Like, I would expect, and I'm looking at his numbers right now. You know who he's got 12 home runs, Rafael Devers. I would think that he would be doing that, like, mentally, just paying attention to baseball. If you didn't tell me and you were like, who's beating Aaron Judge in home runs in the AL, that's who I would pick.
Yeah.
Because he's just looked awesome recently. The guy's got 60-plus hits on the season. He's doing his thing. For sure, and he's a big part of the reason that Boston is such a threat in the AL East this season, for sure. So I'm not necessarily surprised. I'm happy to see Cal doing it. I like to see the Mariners play good. They're a team that I like to see well, and I'd like to see them win the AL West.
Yes.
Oh, speaking of which, I'm just looking at the next question here, and I see that it goes right to these teams.
How are the Seattle Mariners performing this season? The Mariners remain at the top of the American League West with strong performances both at the plate and at the mound.
Listen, so I just want to point out, right? They are in the lead in the AL West, but they're tied for wins with Houston. So that could change very quickly. No question about it. But I think as a team, so JP Crawford's been having a really good season. Julio Rodriguez in center field, he's been having a real good season. Cal Raleigh's been having a really good season. So they've got a few guys, and then they've got what's his name? They've got Arozarena on the team also, right? So they've got some good pieces. Now, granted, Arozarena is only batting like 220 this season. He hasn't looked that hot. But overall, like, I can see why their offense is moving the way that it is. No question about it. Now, for the pitching side of things, Brian Wu has been, I think he's got 5 or 6 wins on the season. He's 5-2. I'm looking at it now. He's got 60 Ks on the season already. Brian Wu's looked good. No question about it. Luis Castillo's been pretty good for them so far on the mound. What's this guy's name? Hancock. Emerson Hancock's looked pretty good too. So they've had some good play on the mound for sure. I'm trying to think about who their closer is off the top of my head, and I can't. Maybe you can help me with that. But the Mariners.
Oh, Mariners.
2025. Oh, this guy has been a stud. Andres Munoz. That's the other reason. If you look at it, where we'll use Cleveland last year, Class A was a stud, and that's what helped Cleveland be a top tier team. So when you have a top tier closer, that's what helps you. Because that helps you. So many guys have lost games. I mean, you're a Yankee fan. How many games have you lost because the closer fucked up? Listen, now, and like, that's actually so for us, and this is a scary thing to think about. Just because you did bring that up. Seeing the way that a guy like Munoz is closing for this team, seeing the way that these bats are putting balls in play, playing this team in let's just say the ALCS. Yeah. If they have Munoz playing at the level he has in recent weeks, he's been filthy, and he's throwing gas. That could be a real tough outing for us because they got guys who can put the ball in play, and like our closing has been average. It's definitely, I mean, listen, I'm spoiled. I grew up watching Mariano Rivera. Yes. So mentally for me, anything else, and I'm like, yeah. Like as a kid, I got to watch Eckersley, and then I got to watch the Mariano era, So like I've seen the best closing that there's ever, that there may ever be. The only unanimous Hall of Fame vote ever, Mariano Rivera. Right? So it could be a tough outing for us, and we get to the ALCS and we got to play the Mariners just because they've got a lights out closer like Andres Munoz right now. Yes. So, but it's been pretty exciting to watch them. I feel like they are the team to win the AL West, but it's still a long season, right? They've got 100+ games to go, so it's going to be about if they can stay healthy at the end of the day. I think that's really what it's going to come down to. Mm-hmm. Especially with the Astros. You already know. They got the Astros to deal with. And you never know, like, listen, the Angels have a losing record, but they still have 25 wins already on the season. And the Rangers, another team, the Rangers are in third place. They're 27-29. The Rangers could click on at any point and go on a big win streak, and all of a sudden we're looking at a totally different thing. So, it's tough to say, but my pick at this point, based on what I've seen, and it's got to be the Mariners, for sure.
Now to add to number 5, before I go there, it's just more of an opinion of me. LA De La Cruz is what we're going to talk about. I feel like he could be the guy who could challenge a Ricky Henderson record for stolen bases.
Not this
Could.
season, he's not.
No. I'm saying in his lifetime. If the way he's playing, the position, his speed, the way he plays, I feel like he could do it. So, is De La Cruz redefining the modern leadoff hitter? De La Cruz became the first player in Major League history with 115 extra base hits and 115 stolen bases through his first 300 games since 1900s.
I mean, listen, you can't really argue with the stats, right? He's looked amazing, and he's got some power in his bat too. I think he's got like 11 home runs on the season. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, he's got 40 ribbies too, and he's a leadoff hitter. So he cleans up for the back end of that lineup pretty well. Which is pretty awesome, no question about that. Let me just look at the way that you worded this question again, because I don't want to answer it too long-winded, but it's hard to not. I think he's the closest thing that modern baseball is going to see to a Ricky Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that he's going to get, like, if you were to look at like a line graph of stolen bases, everyone is like here, career, and then Ricky Henderson's like up here.
Yeah,
like it's mind-boggling. So
no, but that's why I said he could challenge. I'm not saying he could be a Henderson, but he could be. I can see him be one of those players that could challenge it.
He could one day be the number 2 bases stolen all time. I could see that. I don't. Ricky's record is it's a hard one to break.
I mean, 138 stolen bases in a single season, like that's unheard of.
Ricky was like, okay, so you were a kid when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And growing up, not in that market, like athletics, because of multiple players, because of Dennis Eckersley, because of Jose Canseco, because of Ricky Henderson, they were just like must-watch baseball, right? But when you saw Ricky Henderson get on first, you were like glued to the TV. Like, is he going to steal? Is he going to steal? Yeah. Right? Like, you never ever saw him get on base and thought like this guy's going to sit there. Like,
yeah,
you just assume he's going to get one extra base at least, right? Yeah. Now, LA's not there yet, but again, the potential, like I mean, as you said, he's already like at a record-breaking level for his first 300 outings, right? Yeah. He's a really good player, right? He's exciting to watch. I think that he's really, really good, and so, right, they had guys like Pete Rose on that team back in the day. Like, they had guys who loved to steal back in the day, and so I think for Cincinnati baseball, he's a really exciting piece, and I like him a lot, but I don't know. It's definitely possible that he becomes the number 2 guy one day. He's got a long career ahead of him. I would like to think, assuming he stays healthy, right? Yeah. He's only a couple of years in. So, sky's the limit. Probably the easiest way to play it.
But if you look at the average right now, on the average, 300 baseball games, that's 150 per season, and he's only got 115. So to be on a Ricky Henderson pace, because what we just said about the 130, he would have to have over 200 at this point to be close to Henderson to validate what you were saying about the separation. He'd have to have almost 200 right now to be considered next to Henderson, because when is the last time you've seen a guy get near 100 that wasn't Henderson?
So like here, just to give you the numbers, right? Here, okay, so number one, right, being Ricky Henderson. Ricky has 1,406 stolen bases in his career.
Yeah.
Okay. The next closest person is Lou Brock with 938. He's got almost 500 less.
Yeah.
Okay. Could I see this guy breaking into that top tier one day? You know, with Billy Hamilton and Lou Brock breaking 900. You know, passing Ty Cobb. Yes, I could. Of course, nothing's definite. You never know, but it's definitely something that I could see happening. I wouldn't be like completely shocked by it, right? He's exciting to watch, and you know, assuming a healthy career, you know, less injuries is more, obviously. Then I don't see any reason he couldn't be there.
Yeah, but the other thing that we have to be in the reality, because I played baseball and all that stuff, is when I played baseball, it was a different game. A lot of these records that we do talk about was a different type of game.
Whoa. So. I just wanted to give you a quick update. Panthers Canes is now tied 2-2. Yo, you can't. That team is not to be played with, man.
Yes.
That's all I'm going to say on that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Panthers, I sat there one day, like I just went for a smoke, and I'm like, oh, they're down 2-0. Okay. I went for a smoke, and that was like 5 minutes. Come back, 3-2 Panthers. I'm like, that was not even 5 minutes.
Dude, they're really just like their offense is really it's really different because okay, I mean, think about it, like they've had games where they've had some of these games where they've won, say like where they've had like 6 goals, say, right? It's not like it's just the offense scoring. You know, the other night, Nico McCullough had 2 goals. He's a defenseman. Like, okay. You know what I'm saying? When you got defenders that are putting up more than 1 goal in a game, you know, that's a very hard thing to take it to. So, you know what? And listen, I'll tell you what, it's actually perfect timing. That's what we got on the baseball side of things tonight, guys. And it is time for some NHL hockey. So as you guys just heard, the Panthers and the Canes are playing tonight. This is Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Right now, the Panthers are up 3-1 in the series. The Canes came out very strong and took a strong lead, but now the game is all tied up. So, you know, where do we go with this? Like, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, historically, and I'll use that word loosely, up until the other day, they had 14 straight losses in the Eastern Conference Finals. And they were swept out by Florida 2 years ago in that 14-game losing streak. So they've lost 6 of the last 7 against Florida in the Eastern Conference Finals in the last 2 seasons. So statistically right now, it's not looking good for Carolina. And I was going to make that comment as you were saying that about it. As they just scored and I came in, I looked, you could see all the fans. It just took the life out of the fans. And that's the one thing you got to do, especially since they're in Carolina. You took the crowd out of it. So now the crowd is not behind this team now. So it might turn bad for Carolina.
So right now, and as you guys know, when it comes to professional sports, usually speaking, right, it's happened a few times in every sport, but when a team is down 3-1 in a series or a team is up 3-1 in a series, the team with those 3 wins in general is the team that advances to the finals.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we've seen other things happen.
There hasn't been they were 3-0. We'll go not 3-1, 3-0. That's what it was. Statistically, a team that is up 3-0 has never lost a series in NHL. There's never been a team that won 3 and then lost Game 7.
And last night we got another dominant performance on the West Coast final by the Oilers. I can't stand the Oilers for obvious reasons. They made light work of my Golden Knights, but they've really looked They've looked incredible. Right now, it looks like we might be seeing a rematch of last year, right? Edmonton Oilers against the Florida Panthers. And the Florida Panthers did come out victorious last year. And I think that this kind of takes us right into the questions, huh?
Yes. Now, just before we get into the questions, this is the first time we'll see this since 08-09 for people watching that there has been a back-to-back Stanley Cups with the same teams. Now, and we compare McDavid to Crosby, and Crosby was the one involved in the 08-09 Pittsburgh versus Detroit, and Crosby lost the first finals, but then came back to beat them the year later. So I heard a lot of people today when I was watching things that saying McDavid did lose last year, but he got a chip on his shoulder about winning this year. So Edmonton, if it is Edmonton versus Florida, like we think it's going to happen, McDavid's going to have a chip on his shoulder to finally take them out.
So in 2008, the Detroit Red Wings are the team that won and beat the Pittsburgh Penguins. And the Penguins came back in 2009, led by Sidney Crosby, to win it.
Didn't win it all.
Okay. Cool.
Yes.
There we go. So
we have seen this before.
Okay. So it has happened before. Now, I mean, what do you think? I don't, for me, I feel like the Panthers are really that team, right? Like when I think of the team that's becoming a dynasty, the first team in sports that comes to my mind is the Panthers.
Yes. Now, if you look at statistically in the Eastern Conference, the best team that has either won the cup or has represented the Eastern Conference has come out of Florida the last 6 years, which is crazy because you look at 10 years ago, people were like, why the hell is there hockey in Florida? And now the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers have owned the Eastern Conference for 6 years straight.
And you know, obviously they have, you know, they've built their teams right from defense to the front line, you know, but I think both teams have one thing in common. Each team has a goalie who's going to be considered an all-time great. You know, when all is said and done, people are always going to talk about Bobrovsky and Vasilevsky. Like those are two of the best goalies we've seen of this generation, hands down.
Yes.
So, you know, when you got a guy, Vasilevsky's a big dude too, man. That guy covers the whole goal. Like
he's 6'5", 240. Like he's a massive dude, man.
Yeah, it's like he's like a linebacker playing goalie. But a lot of hockey guys are big, but back in the day, goalies weren't monstrous. Like this, that's a really big dude.
And I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, the league got on Vasilevsky because his pads, he had to get certain pads because of how big he is. They actually fined him because they were 1.5 inches bigger than everybody else's pads. So they said, hey, league standard is like we talk about bats and baseball. They can only be a certain size, but he's like, they can't get smaller for me because he's so big.
Did they have to make like a pad, like a special pad that's like thinner, but like the same caliber or something?
Basically.
So it was like, that's crazy. It's
so
kind
there
of
wasn't
crazy.
So there wasn't a disadvantage that his pads were 1.5 inches bigger.
I mean, listen, you got to be on a fair playing field. I get it. So
we're talking about a guy who's like Aaron Judge being a goalie.
Dude, Aaron Judge is a mound of a man. That's a fact.
Aaron Judge is 6'7", so he's only 2 inches shorter than Aaron Judge, and about the same size. So it's when you look at Vasilevsky, he's like Aaron Judge, you know.
Yeah, that's kind of hectic. That's definitely a little hectic.
Will the Panthers continue their dominance over the Edmonton Oilers? Because this season, last year it was 4-3 in the finals, as we know, as we went to 7 games. But the Panthers have defeated the Oilers in both matchups this season that they have met. So right now they have a 6-3 record with them in the last year. So will Florida continue their dominance of Edmonton?
Okay, so it's 3-2, by the way. I think you knew that already, though.
No,
Florida's obviously winning. So that's a tough question. It's really, again, I think it's going to come down, like, both these teams have a really good check, right? And they've both got some elite scorers on their team. So I think it's like, right? When you look at Connor McDavid, you've got not just Connor McDavid, but you got Leon Draisaitl with him.
Yes.
So I think that, like, the biggest thing to me, it's really going to come down to Skinner versus Bobrovsky, right? Which one of those guys is going to be dialed in for the whole series, right? Because there was a point where they actually were like talking about should they pull Bobrovsky? Should they, but then he just came back in the next game and he was even better.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's just in the last like 8 or 9 games, his goals against average is under 2 goals. So,
but that's
really
what happened to Bobrovsky last year. They went, you look at this Florida versus Carolina series. They're up 3-0, and Carolina won the next game, and Carolina was really dominating this game. That's what happened with them last year. The Panthers walked into the finals, won the first 3, and then lost the last 3. They got outplayed, outscored, and it looked like Edmonton was going to beat them. And then Bobrovsky had a day off, had a breather, and then played on his head for Game 7 to win it. So
listen,
he's got
just check this out. 1, 2, 3, 4. In Skinner's last 5 games, he's got a one goal against average, and one of those games is a shutout. Yeah. Or no, 2 of those games are a shutout. Excuse me. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, yeah. So 2 games are 2 shutouts in his last 5 games, and a 1 goals against average.
Yes.
So if they get the Stewards, Stuart Skinner on the season is just under 3 goals against, right? 2.81, give or take. Wow. So Vegas Hockey Freak just chimed in. He's watching the game. But right, if they get the Skinner that's been playing this last 2 weeks of hockey, it's definitely possible that they get by it, right? But Bobrovsky has also been playing just like incredible hockey. Like, I'll be honest, I was shocked to see this. I mean, he's given up in this last 2 games. He's given up 5 goals now so far. And to me, he might be getting a little tired. Like, if they can close this series out right now and give Bobrovsky a little bit of time off,
then
it's hard to say. I don't know.
But also, Toronto shut him out last series too.
So Toronto, I mean, listen, and Toronto was a long series.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the advantage right now. That's definitely on the side of the Edmonton Oilers, right? For obvious reasons. The last series, was a 5-game series for them. The series before that was either a 5 or a 6-game series. They just haven't played as much hockey in the last month as the Florida Panthers have. So the Florida Panthers close it out tonight. This will be some good needed rest for them for a couple days. Maybe not. It depends because, Edmonton might close their series out tomorrow. Yeah. So we'll see what happens, really.
But as long as you give Bobrovsky a day, he's good.
Man.
If Edmonton, before we go to that next question, but if Edmonton wins out tomorrow night on the 29th, they'll start this series probably June 1st, and they'll both have like a day of rest. So both teams will have at least an extra day. Florida will have an extra day of rest, but they still practice. So Bobrovsky will have at least 2 days of rest before his first game. So it'll be a little bit of advantage, but we can't determine what's going to happen until we see Game 1, how they play against each other. So
Florida's got to finish the job tonight first, right?
Yes.
But mentally, I'm just going to put this out there because we haven't. In fact, you might know the last time it did happen, but I just feel like we haven't seen Canadian teams, and it's a Canadian sport. We haven't seen Canadian teams finish the job and win the Stanley Cup, recently?
No, it's been twice in the last 2011 and last year was the furthest we've seen a Canadian team go since 1993 because Vancouver lost in Vancouver to Boston Bruins in
Yeah.
2011, and then Edmonton lost last year in 7 to Florida in Florida.
So we're at a 32-year drought for the Canadians.
Yeah.
He said
But
the last Canadian team to win was Montreal.
yes, 1993.
Wow. Okay. So,
Yeah,
well,
1993, but Canada and they didn't have another team until I think it was 2005, 2006, 2007. I think we had a 3-year run of Canadian team going to the finals, which they all lost. Vancouver lost. Montreal played Tampa a couple years ago in the COVID season. Then they got washed out real bad because it was like a 4-1 washout. So
and
um
that was Patrick Roy, wasn't it? That was
no
my goalie. He was
yeah
the
well
goalie for the
in 93
'93
yeah
team,
93
and that
yeah
was
well,
before he got traded to the Colorado Avalanche.
yes
Okay, yeah. I remember this. I remember this quite fondly. I'm a huge Patrick Roy fan. To me, he's the GOAT of goalies. I love the guy. I know it's really not. It's probably who Marty Brodeur, but I don't know. I love the guy. So,
Broder's the GOAT for one reason because Broder has more wins than Wah. But
but
Wah has more cups.
I don't care what anyone says. Wah's the GOAT, right? And that
Because
was
Wah
against
won in Wah won in 1985, won in 93, then he won in 95, and then he won in like 2001 with Colorado. He's got 2 with Colorado and 2 with Montreal. So the guy's got 4 cups.
and that was against Gretzky and the
Yeah.
Kings.
Yeah.
Former Edmonton Oiler Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Okay.
And some people, if we go back to that era, that specific finals, Toronto was going to beat the Kings, and it would have been Montreal versus Toronto in '93. And a lot of people have a conspiracy theory that the Kings only got through was because it was Gretzky.
I mean, makes total sense to me, right?
Yeah.
Gretzky put the team on his back. I'm not surprised.
Yes. So, can the Oilers overcome their recent slump to return to the Stanley Cup Finals? After a 4-1 win over Dallas in Game 4, the Oilers are 1 win away from returning to the finals. And we have been talking about it by saying, yeah, it's statistically a 3-1 series lead. They're more likely going to go to the finals with a 3-1 lead.
So pretty much established, right? The Stanley Cup Finals is likely to be the Florida Panthers against the Edmonton Oilers, a rematch of last year. Very exciting. Stuart Skinner against, and I forget Bobrovsky's first name. I just call him Bobrovsky.
Sergey.
It is Sergey, right? They're always Sergey. They're always Sergey. I should have known. I should have just guessed Sergey, right?
Yeah.
That's like an automatic. But it's going to be very exciting. Guys like Sam Reinhart against Leon Draisaitl, Barkov. I mean, this is going to be a good series. Very exciting. I'm looking forward to it. And the Stanley Cup Final never disappoints. I expect the 7-game series.
Yes.
All right. And to close it out for the evening, we've got a little bit of basketball, not much, right? So now I just want to point out before we jump into it, and I didn't even look at these questions, so let me look before. Okay, good. It's not there. So finals preview, the likelihood being, I mean, if you're watching right now, the Minnesota Timberwolves are getting spanked right now by the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Oklahoma City Thunder are getting ready to close it out. It's 65-32 at halftime. So this game is pretty much all but over. The number one defense in the sport, in NBA, in basketball, is the Oklahoma City Thunder, and their bench is deep. And my Knicks, I mean, I would love to see them become the 14th team in NBA playoff history to come back from a 3-1 deficit. But all signs point to the Indiana Pacers representing the East in the NBA Finals this season. And the Pacers have, bar none, been the number one offense through this playoff. And actually, little fact, if they win this next game, they'll be 12-3. All their series will be 4-1 series. Right? So they're basically not losing in the playoffs. They've only lost 18 games since January 5th. Mm-hmm. So the Pacers are playing dynamite basketball off the back of Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam. I hate and can't stand both of them. But, you know, I'm not here to talk about who I like the most. I'm here to talk about what's actually happening in the sport. So we've got a couple of final questions here as a NBA Finals preview. Take it away, Cove.
So, will the Oklahoma City Thunder secure their first NBA championships? Because Charles Barkley has expressed strong confidence that the Thunder will secure the championship, calling them the best team in the NBA.
So, popped up on my computer. It was loud and distracting. To me, they're inevitable at this point, right? They've got the MVP. They have the best record all season. They have 68 wins on the season, 14 losses. They've just been tremendous all year. Now, everybody was talking, you know, they're a young team. They're a young team. I got to see them prove themselves. SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, has been nothing but a superstar this entire season. He won the MVP rightfully, and he won it going up against Nikola Jokic in the series against the Nuggets, where they finished them off in a Game 7 in absolute dominant fashion. Since that Game 7, they've just completely – they won home game at Minnesota where they didn't look that good, and Minnesota went off. But they've been basically lights out, you know, just incredible defense. And the offense is just firing on all cylinders. It's not just Alexander. I mean, you got guys like Mort coming in and just busting threes when they need them. I would be shocked if they didn't finish the job and win the trophy, the Larry O'Brien this season. Just me. And talking a lot about the Indiana Pacers. So what do you think?
About?
Can the Pacers beat Oklahoma City Thunder?
I believe they can. I do believe they can.
Anything's possible, man. No question about it.
So to lead into that, can Tyrese Halliburton lead the Pacers to their first title? And after Halliburton's historic triple-double helped the Pacers move closer to the finals, showcasing his leadership and playmaking ability.
You know, okay, so that guy's clearly on his way to superstardom, right? He needs to win this to become that guy. I don't know that he will. I don't think that he will. I think that you know what they say in sports, right? Defense wins championships.
Yes.
So,
and they have said that when you asked me just a second ago. The Pacers' defense this playoffs has been what has helped them the most. It's not so much their players; it's been them playing defense. And as I've been watching most of the games now versus a lot more years ago, that's the one thing that they keep talking about is the Indiana's defense is what's helping them bar down.
So here's a little stat about the Pacers, and we saw it again last night, actually. When the Pacers score 120 points or more in this season, they are 32-2. Mm-hmm. So they are going to need that offense to be firing. They need to score these points to beat this team because, I mean, it's just when Shai Gilgeous is having an average night, he's still going to put up 30 points. What you got to do is stop him from putting up 40 and getting 10 assists too, right? Yes. That's really what it comes down to. And then he's got role players, you know, a number 2 in Williams. Then he's got Chet Holmgren at number 3. He's got so many good players, and their bench is so deep, and everyone contributes. So they're a really dangerous team. But at the same token, Indiana is also a really dangerous team. They are, honestly, you saw my Knicks playing them, right? I'm a huge Knicks fan. I grew up. I've never got to see my Knicks win a championship. I'm not going to get to see it this year, it doesn't look like. anything's possible, but I don't know that they're going to be the 14th team in this playoff history to do it. And it doesn't look like it. They look completely overmatched night in and night out, right? There was one aberration in Karl Towns going off in the fourth quarter and scoring 20 points. And just, I don't know that we can keep that up. And for that matter, I mean, Indiana is going to be the team, but I don't know that Indiana is going to have to keep this game at their pace. But the tough thing is that, okay, so with all these young, awesome players on OKC, they can easily run that pace. The Knicks can't keep up with that pace. They don't have the bench to do it, right? So these guys, Oklahoma City has a bench that matches up with the Pacers. So the Pacers' key advantage in being able to keep this game at a crazy pace, I think that they lose that when they play Oklahoma City. I would be extremely shocked if they won. I'll be honest, I don't even think it's going to be a 7-game series. I think that it's going to be OKC in 6. I want it to be OKC in 6 because I'm a hater and the Pacers are cooking my Knicks. So, I'll leave you with that. And matter of fact, when Reggie Miller did the choke thing, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone's talking about how Halliburton did the choke thing. Reggie Miller did not win a title that season. In fact, he's never won a title. So, crown this guy the next Reggie Miller and let him go out and be a superstar and never win a title either.
Matches jersey number?
Dude, listen, man. I'm all for it. I'm all for good basketball, and I think it's going to – because we have the best defense and the best offense and two really fast-paced teams, I think that the finals is going to be awesome, but I just don't think that – like I would be shocked if OKC lost. Mm-hmm. As we know, you think Indiana can do it.
Yep. I know.
If Indiana wins, Halliburton's dad is definitely going to make his way back to that floor. No question about it. Right?
Oh, yeah. You're going
to stop it. In SGA's face. You're the MVP. You're garbage. He's going to be talking all sorts of smack. So it'll be interesting to see. It's exciting. Obviously, I would like to see New York, but it is what it is.
But just to quickly add that before we end it all, do you really think, and I get it, I get Halliburton's dad is Halliburton's dad the way he's been, but do you really not let him, when his kid gets in the finals, do you not let him watch his kid? Like, do you really ban him from being on the court? Because I've read stories about it that Tyrese is like, come on, man, let my dad in. Just let my dad in.
So this is what they've been doing. He's up in the rafters. He's like in a box. He's watching. He's there.
Oh, he's there.
But they're like, no, you can't be courtside. Like, after you got ignorant with Giannis, like, no, like, we can't have you courtside. So I don't think he's going to be courtside, but he will be in the house for sure. He'll be in the house. He'll be cheering.
Yes, I get that. But so, he had his behavior and did what he did, right? And it doesn't excuse it. But should they just not try to give him one chance? Go, hey, we'll let you down there, and if you act up, we're going to move you, but give him the chance.
If anyone that wasn't his dad did that, they might have gotten arrested. Mm-hmm. Okay? They would not be allowed in any of the arenas. They would not be watching any of the games. So I think he's lucky for that. And what I think, okay, let's just play it out. Say the Pacers – bring it to a game 7 and they're up by 20 with 2 minutes left or something like that. Yeah. I would imagine the NBA would go up, have like security escort his father down to greet him on the floor after he won. But since the Pacers are not going to win, we don't have to worry about that.
You're just saying that because you don't want to be here, me text you, be like, the Pacers won.
Listen, I'm going to be watching every game. I truly don't believe it's going to happen. Anything's possible, right? It's professional sports. And may the best team win, obviously. But we're going to see what happens. So, guys, listen, It's about that time of night when Vinny puts his daughter to bed. That's all we got. Now, again, if you are interested in checking out some boxing, I'll have some updates on my page as the week goes on. But if you are already an Amazon Prime user, Prime Video is going to have an awesome fight card on this weekend featuring Sweet Hands, Caleb Plant, and Jamal Charlo. They're not fighting each other, but they're looking to fight each other later. But they are two of the best in the sport, 154-pound champion and 168-pound former champion. So it will be very exciting to see, and it's totally free. Check it out. And guys, as usual, from myself and my boy Cove here, thank you for joining us in Vinny's Corner. We'll see you next week.